Hi, everybody. Welcome to Real Guitar Live. For those of you who are new, I'm Thomas Michaud. I'll give you a quick overview of what we're going to do. The main thing is I'm going to answer all your guitar questions. Now, we have many today submitted ahead of time, so I'll give that top priority. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start with one question, which will kind of be the theme. And I'm going to give a quick instruction, not that quick, but instruction on the minor pentatonic scale. Then I'll go through the comments and see which questions I can answer there. If at all possible, please start with the word question so I can see it easily. At the end, when we're all done, I'm going to give away a $50 gift card. These are people who have entered a drawing. They're members of my Real Guitar Success membership. They have 20 sessions to complete or spend at least 10 minutes on each month. And when they do, they get entered in the drawing to win a $50 gift card. So I'll mention that again at the end. For now, let's get started with these questions. And I have a heck of questions today. This might go a little long, but they're really good questions. To start with, I'm going to answer the question about minor pentatonic scales. This is from Joni, and she says, in the minor pentatonic scale, you don't play the 2 and the 6 of the scale. In a B flat major, do you leave out the same notes? And so those 2 notes are never played in pentatonic scales. Okay, so to start off, Joni, I want to distinguish there are 2 types of pentatonic scales that we're talking about here, and they kind of got mushed together. There's the minor pentatonic scale, and then you kind of slipped in the major pentatonic scale. These are 2 different scales, minor pentatonic and major pentatonic. I'm going to start with the minor pentatonics today because that's a whole big subject, and I'd be glad to do another lesson on major pentatonic scale and maybe even the differences of the 2, but not as important as you might think. For right now, one of the more important issues is comparing the minor pentatonic scale to the minor scale, or what we'll call the natural minor scale, because that is a more practical comparison, something that you can realistically use. And you can even kind of switch between one scale and the other when you're improvising. Helpful to know the difference, and especially the sound difference. And yes, we're going to talk about the intellectual difference today, but you've probably often heard me say, people who have been on these sessions before, it's more important to hear and be able to use it than to just intellectually think it. And I say that because as adults, we tend to lean towards an intellectual approach, at least I did for years, and many of my students have. And that kind of holds us back from really using the material to some degree. Play it, use it, hear it, get used to hearing the sound, and then apply what you hear as you're playing, improvising, or creating songs. Minor pentatonic. I made a quick little chart here. It works. I'm a little new to this technology. First of all, the natural pentatonic, natural minor scale, and I say natural because there are other types of minors, melodic, harmonic minor, but we'll stick with a straight out natural minor scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as a repeat of the first note. Sounds like this. And just in case you want to see that, okay. Now, I played intervals. Yes, it sounds like I played notes. In my hearing, I'm hearing spaces between notes. That's what makes it the natural minor scale. Between 1 and 2, there's one interval. What do you call that? From G to A is 1 step. That's the word I was looking for. 1 step. If it was 1 fret, that'd be a half step. 2 frets is 1 step. That's what makes that sound. Da, da. It's the distance between the 2. Now, between 2 and 3 is a half step, 1 fret. Between 3 and 4, a whole step. maybe I'll go up this way so you can see it more easily here. Let's look. So I play here on the guitar, 1 step, that's 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5. These are steps, half step, 1 fret, 6, 7, and then repeats here. That's an octave of G. I played it this way, same notes, just across the strings. Minor scale, natural minor. Minor pentatonic, Joni mentioned that the minor pentatonic leaves off the 2 and the 6. Yes. So 1, skip 2, 3, 4, 5, skip 6. And she's talking from the natural minor scale. And played here, which is where I usually play it. Okay. Minor pentatonic scale. So let's clear up one thing. It's the spacing that makes like a template. No matter where you start, if you do those spaces, 1.5 steps, 1, 1, 1, and from 1, go 1.5, 1, 1, 1. Something ain't right here. I got this mixed up. But I can fix it. Now, before everybody. There we go. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. I put the 1/2 in the wrong place. There. So it should be 1.5 steps. 1, 1, 1.5 steps, and then 1. It's a little hard to see when you're going this way, but it's this way, it's easier. There's that 1.5. Okay, we got it straightened out now. If you use the spacing, no matter where you start from and do that spacing, it's going to be a minor pentatonic scale. The name of the scale will change. So this is an A note. It's now a minor pentatonic scale. If I start on the C note, it's a C minor pentatonic scale. Same with the minor, by the way. So really what we're doing is memorizing a spacing. It maybe not intellectually, but at least in our ears. When I play this, it sounds like a minor pentatonic scale because I hear that spacing between the notes. Minor pentatonic scale for improvisation is probably one of the first scales I would learn because it's so popular in blues and any rock that comes from blues, and a lot of it does. If you're playing more country or pop rock, the major pentatonic scale is the one to go to. Here's the major pentatonic scale. Has that major sound. Major pentatonic scale. Major scale, that's what I meant to say, and major pentatonic scale. 1, 2, off the major scale, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 6, 8, we'll say, the octave. Back, it's the same note, 1 octave higher. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8. So just to be clear, there was an implied question here. Are the minor and pentatonic scale the same formula? No, they're not. In relationship to the major scale, the major pentatonic it skips different notes. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next question because, again, we have a lot. What exercises do you recommend to train the fingers to stay close to the guitar fretboard? I'll go back to a guitar view. Let's take off the pentatonic for now. Here's an exercise I prefer from players who've been playing for a little while, maybe intermediate or advanced. not brand new beginners. I'll deal with that in a minute. I call it the spider. So that wasn't my best rendition of a spider, but hopefully you got the idea. Here's the main point about that. Now it's playing each of the notes half step apart, moving across from the sixth string to the first, and I would normally go the other way as well. The main point was, as I went to the next string, I left the other fingers on. See, my first finger moved over as I played the fifth string, and 2, 3, and 4 stayed there. Now I move the second finger over, now the third over, and the pinky over. This is what trains you to stay close to the strings, which is good practice. That said, for brand new beginners, I would start with, I call this a basic finger developer. Open, 1, 2, 3, same thing all the way across the strings, but just practice staying close to the strings. Next string. If you can leave your fingers there, that's fine, but go easy on yourself. That's usually a little more advanced than a brand new beginner. I do think, Shulami, you're ready for this one. Shulami asked the question. Okay, the spider. And I will put a link in the show notes to the spider exercise for members. I have a whole lesson on that, as well as other warm-up, I call them warm-up exercises that are great for varying aspects of playing scales and warming up before your practice session. What are the best minor pentatonic licks that every guitarist should know? Well, a couple of issues there. Maybe I could do a lesson on pentatonic scale licks. That sounds like a good lesson to do. But it would depend quite a bit on the style of music you're playing. A pentatonic blues licks would be different than minor pentatonic in other styles. The lick that I use probably the most often is this. But I don't know if that's the most popular among guitar players in general. It's a lick that I use a lot of variations on. It's a kind of a hammer on. Oh, let me do that again so you can see. Hammer on. And I often use my third finger, especially on electric guitar, because I have more force in my third finger. So hammer on and pull off, next note, and then back to the original note. And all I'm doing here is repeating it. Repeating it, that makes it more of an exercise when you go all the way down like that. How does one know which notes harmonize together? Again, that's a more than one lesson. And it depends on the style of music and what you're trying to do. So if you're playing lead guitar and you're improvising, you'd probably just want to memorize notes that sound good, harmonized together. The most common is what I call sixths. Sixths are again, I'll show my guitar. Here we go. There, I got it right. I'm just trying to play a scale there. That's probably the most common used in improvisation. The second one would be what I call thirds. There we go. That was better. So I do a lot of little exercises in the practice sessions that I mentioned earlier, using thirds and sixths like that, so students get used to it. Is there a way to speed up acquiring muscle memory besides frequent repetition? Speeding up muscle memory, ironically, I think the best way is frequent repetition with conscious frequent repetition. That's what I was looking for. Because I found for myself that just playing mindlessly through scales and things goes very slow in terms of improving the technique. But when I focus and go slow and get the technique right, relax if I start getting tense and keep coming back at it, that tends to produce much faster results in terms of the amount of time. Though it kind of seems like at the time it's taking a long time because I'm putting my attention there. I could play an hour watching TV and do through scales, but 10 minutes of focused repetition seems to do more than an hour of just mindlessly going through exercises while watching TV or not really paying attention. I've tried lots of things. I've tried reading a book while, just to make lots of practice time. And I found that all practice time is not equal. Focused repetition. Repetition is important. So I tried to get as much results in the least amount of time. And I always find when push comes to shove, you have to do a lot of repetitions. You just get more out of them when you focus and get the notes right. Go slow at first, because what happens when you go fast and make mistakes, your mind tends to kind of record the mistakes, and it takes longer to undo them. And it's a constant process of undoing something that doesn't quite sound right to get to where you want to go. So by going slow, you actually save time in the beginning, getting it right. You do have to keep pushing it little by little. I mean, if something doesn't sound right until it gets to a certain speed, you don't want to stay playing slow. But start slow and do it step by step instead of jumping fast all the time. There is value in playing faster and kind of pushing yourself and then going back to where you can actually play it accurately. But keep going back to that where you can play it accurately and pushing it a little beyond that. That's a good question. That's something I think about all the time still, how to get the most use out of the amount of time that I'm spending, but not discount the value of just having to do repetitions. If you have 30 minutes a day to practice a new skill, what's the most effective way to divide up my time? So that will vary depending on your lifestyle and what you're working on, and to some degree your personality. What I find often helps, if I have 30 minutes, okay, I got to be careful because a lot of beginners, 30 minutes is a long time to practice. For me, it's not. And for people who have been playing for a long time and are, at a certain level, 30 minutes is not a long time. So let's say if you have a bulk of time, less than 30 minutes, let's say 10, 15 minutes you're going to practice, it's probably best to do it all at once. And for me, I would do 30 minutes mostly all at once, because it takes me a while to warm up. And if I do it 30 minutes in different sections, I have to warm up each time. That said, I get a lot out of doing random 15-minute sessions, because especially if I've already warmed up in the morning. So I'll play some in the morning, kind of get warmed up, then throughout the day, do 15-minute sessions, and I can focus on one particular aspect and try and really work it. The reason that really works, I think, is that I feel like I can really focus on this one aspect and give it my all and try and get it right and move on, because it's only 15 minutes. I don't worry about it's going to be too strenuous, and then I'll be tired when I go on to my other materials. I would try that 15 kind of intensive 15-minute sessions throughout the day. If you only have 10 minutes, she's talking about, 10 minutes 3 times a day. That could work. I mean, depends on what you're working on, how strenuous it is. If it's something strenuous, you need to warm up more. If it's something that's not that hard, maybe you don't need to warm up so much. So not a definite answer. I get that. there are too many variables here, and each person has to kind of find their groove. And that might even change, not only from day to day, but throughout, what they're working on their lifetime. We always come back to at least try and get 10, 15 minutes a day, every day. And then if you can stretch that, go from there. What do you do if you reach a plateau in a skill and you are learning and seem to be stuck, and that you are learning and you seem to be stuck and not able to get it and advance further? So that happens to me. And sometimes I'll vary my practice up. And this I recommend to students as well. Work on something, but not necessarily every day. Work on something else so that you're not constantly banging your head against a wall of something that's not working. But I wouldn't give up on it. I mean, it depends. And you have to decide if at some point, if you've picked something that's just way beyond your skill level and you need to back up and do some preparatory work. That's happened to me a few times. I told a story about my teacher looked at something I was working on, I really want to play, and said, "You're not there. Trust me, let's do the prep material. Then when you get there, it'll not only be easier, but you'll do it justice." And he was right. He was 100% right. You will have to make some of those decisions unless you're following, one of my step-by-step courses. Then you pretty much just want to go on to the next thing. I would also say sometimes there's value in just keep coming back at something a little bit at a time. Sometimes that's kind of fun for me, is to just do it several times in a day and just keep coming back. See if I can pick one, I can break something down to something really small, like this one little measure in there that I'm having a hard time. Or I often do two measures because I want to hear how one goes to the other. And I'll keep coming back to that. And it's kind of fun because I've narrowed it down so small, I have a good chance of getting it at some point, at least up to a speed that I can integrate into the rest of the tune. One of the skills this brings to my mind, one of the skills that is very valuable to learn in playing guitar is how and when to break things down into smaller pieces. The best thing to do there is keep experimenting, keep breaking something down and seeing how far you can break it down and work on it and then build it back up with more of the song. I know that both myself and a lot of my students really underestimate that. They keep trying to play through whole songs or most of the song, and without taking the time to stop and think, here's the problem, let me just work on that for a while and then integrate it into the whole song. How do we listen to a song or watch a song on YouTube and determine the strumming pattern? So there is no magical formula there. I will say here's a couple of tips. One is just find the beat of the song before you start trying to do a strum. This, I think, is often students' biggest downfall. They're trying to do a strum with a song before they've really just settled in to a simple beat. I would even do it without strumming, or maybe just mute the strum. And then, try something without playing the chords, because when you're trying to play chords and you're trying to strum, there's too many things going on there. Just try and get something that feels like it fits with the song. And start very simple. You can always elaborate. Start with the most obvious, is straight down, and try and play the song with chords just with a straight down strum and keep the rhythm. If you can't do that, I wouldn't move on to trying a more elaborate strum. Try to get the chord changes with just a straight down strum. The other thing is go for the simplest strum that will work in the beginning. That means down, maybe down, up at certain strategic parts. Down, down, up, down, down, up. That said, at the same time, I would be learning different strums and practicing them slowly and building up so that you have a repertoire of strums that you can kind of use to check out with songs. After you've done what I just suggested, then you try some of the songs that you already have in your repertoire, some of the strums that you have in your repertoire with that song and see which ones fit. Try it with many songs. Don't get so fixated on one song and you got to figure out the strum. You might not be there yet. And another issue is with especially YouTube videos, the strum might it might be a simple strum might work for that song, but you can't hear it within the song because there's other instruments and things. Often you can't look at a song and see the guitar part and know exactly what to strum based on that, because the guitar part they're playing in the video works with the other instruments, is a part of the whole sound. You need to come up with a strum that works on just one guitar. It's different if you're just watching a video with one guitar, but a lot of the songs, pop songs, are a combination. The groove is a combination of several instruments. Even if there's a guitar, it's fitting in with other instruments. And it wouldn't be what I would play if I'm playing with other instruments. I wouldn't play the same thing on a solo guitar. That's something to keep in mind. It really pays to practice getting to strum with easier songs, simple songs that you kind of can get fairly quickly and get skilled at figuring out strum patterns. So what I'll do, I'll take a song. First of all, I will basically get the groove. Doesn't take me long. I don't even have to go through the whole song. And then I'll just try different things and see what fits. I'm not trying to do exactly what the guitar player is doing, because I know if it's with other instruments, it's not necessarily going to be the best strum. Okay. How long should you be playing guitar before you start using the capo? Well, there's no really fixed answer to that. The capo is just a tool. You can use it from day one. Probably it would be good to learn some basic chords so you're not spending your time on what to do with a capo, but it's not going to hurt to put a capo on even on day one and then try the chords with the capo on. To actually use the capo to change keys, that's probably going to take you a little while. And it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of more skill level. And you could get that skill level in a month, a year. Some people will never get it. Just because they don't practice enough or regularly enough. So it's not a matter of time. But I would say you're probably going to need to be able to play basic chords and play some simple songs before you can see the value of using a capo to change keys. As a guitar teacher, this is Gur, and he's a guitar teacher also. I encounter hundreds of people who simply won't sing. Do you have any tips on how to encourage non-singers to sing and play guitar? I will say I'm not the best person to answer that. I'll give it my perspective. I, generally speaking, am not a great singer, and it's not something I put a lot of effort into. I wouldn't want a teacher keep forcing me to try and sing. I play instrumental guitar, and that's what I want to do. For those people who want to play and sing, I would certainly start with some very simple, easy songs that they could sing without the guitar, and then try it with the guitar. Make it as easy as possible. People are shy because they feel like they're going to be criticized. And if somebody put too much energy into me of trying to sing when that's not what I want to do, I'd probably get discouraged and not want to play. not want to continue with that teacher, actually. So that said, somebody who plays and sings and is teaching students generally who want to just play and sing, and that's their main focus, they would probably be a better, have more tips and opinions on that. I did have a teacher once that really pushed me to sing, and I didn't like it. But that's me. I play the guitar by holding on my left leg. Let me try that and see what it's like. Okay, like that. I practice while sitting in an armchair, and of course the armrest gets in the way. That's why you're saying he doesn't do that. The guitar is a classical, and I'm playing rock and roll. Okay, doesn't matter the type of guitar really. He's just saying it has nylon strings and he's trying to play rock on it. Please tell me if this is a problem. Should I play the guitar leaning on my right leg, back over here? Should I sit on an ordinary chair? I guess he means without armrests. This is Capitan. Well, there is no one right way to hold the guitar. Classical guitar players often play the guitar like this. I don't usually, but I have done it, and I get why. It's very sturdy. To put it on the left leg, angle up like this, and your arm holds it, it really makes the guitar solid. So that's not wrong. I would say, though, either way, I would play on a chair without armrest. That's just an unnecessary burden. I I make sure whenever I practice, I get a chair without armrests. And this one has no, the one in my office does have armrests. It has a removable. I've removed armrests. I've pulled them up where they're flexible like that. Or just get a chair without armrest. I think it's an unnecessary distraction. And if that's the only reason you're playing over here, if that's not a good reason. It's too easy to just get a chair without armrest to practice. Okay. And I will say, in the long run, you want to find the place to put your guitar that feels reasonably comfortable and get used to it being there, not keep moving it back and forth, and certainly not work around your chair. And then when you don't have that chair, you find yourself in an uncomfortable position that you don't need to be there. That's my 2 cents. Okay, so those are all the pre-submitted questions. Let's check and see what we got here for people who have asked questions while I was answering the pre-submitted questions. I'm looking for the word question. Hey, it's nice to see a lot of people today. Pentatonic. Jack says Pentatonic is a good one to be talking about. That's where he's working on. Nick, I thought I bought the acoustic A100. Oh, that's great, Mark. Blessings from Santa Rosa. Okay. It's I want to talk. I notice Rogelio is saying it's hard to play and sing. I do play and sing guitar. Obviously, I have lessons on songs, playing and singing. What I always do is I'll really spend some time getting the chords so that I really don't have to think too hard about it. Then I will sing the song with either a YouTube video, or I'll even record my own chords, just the instrumental, and sing along. So I'm not trying to do both at once at first. Then when I feel fairly confident with singing, I'm not trying to get perfect, I'm always aiming for that 70, 80% place, and fairly confident with strumming and playing the chords, then I'll try and put them together. That has really helped me out a lot. And I used to start by, learning the chords and the changes and trying to sing at the same time. It's just too many things going on. And I would screw up on both sides and get frustrated. So that might help anybody who's trying to play and sing. Try recording yourself. Play the chords and try recording yourself and then singing along, and then try playing and singing together. If nothing else, by playing the chords and recording it, it kind of gives you something to work for to get the chord changes. Get them at least at a moderate tempo. Changing is the issue, right? Not just fingering the chords, changing on time. Nick is asking, the songs I want to play are often too hard to learn in a reasonable amount of time. Do you have any suggestions on how to pick songs to learn, or more generally on how to apply lessons? Good question. This is I think most self-taught students would have this issue. And let me see. I see I missed a couple of questions. So because they're related to this, let me start there. Okay, I can combine these two questions. Let me speak this question first. When learning songs, should we focus on one song until we are about 80% before moving on to another song? Or should we learn that song well enough to the point of being able to play it well before moving on? So there's two aspects of that. It depends on the song, right? If it's a really easy song, well within your ability to play, I would play it, 80% I consider fairly well, but maybe even a little past that, and then move on so that you're kind of adding it to your repertoire. Keep in mind that trying to get something perfect the first time around is really hard. it's often better to leave something for later so that as you practice it, you've got something to keep improving a little bit. But it depends on your goals too. If you got an open mic next week and you really want to play a couple of songs there, I would work on just those 2 songs and try and get them the best you can, right? You've got a place to play them and show everybody, and you want to do your best job. So that's not a time to do 80%. That's a time to push it as far as you can. If you have a repertoire, I think there's a balancing act there. You want to keep going back and touching on aspects of your repertoire, and at the same time pushing yourself to learn new songs. It's going to get really stale just playing the same songs over and over. And you want to feel like you're growing and learning. Personally, I would pick songs that had something new in it, but not so new. It's just totally, a big jump, something fairly close to stuff I've been playing. Maybe some new chord progressions or licks, something that uses a new chord that I want to work on. I think there's a balance there with each week. You might want to decide on a few songs that you're going to practice that you already know, but also work on something new for that week and keep coming back to it for the entire week. Then make another decision next week. Is that enough of that? If I had enough, let's pick something else for new. It takes a little forethought, but you'll get a lot more you're practicing if you think in terms of whole weeks and not just that one day. Think of weeks allows you to maybe not even practice the same thing every day. You can kind of spread out a hard thing, play it on the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and then 6th and 7th, maybe give it an extra push. And the next week, decide if you want to keep working on that. I think that was a big change in my practice when I started looking at whole weeks and not just thinking about today. As a matter of fact, I will also make a theme for a month. This might be a little more advanced. I'll say for the month, I really want to work on this particular technique or these chords. And I'll find ways to work on them, not just one song, but a variety of ways to work on them so that I can make a push and see my progress in that period of a month. Matter of fact, recently I did that and I had extended for 2 months because I didn't make as much progress as I wanted. But again, that's kind of more advanced. I would at least, if you're thinking on a day-to-day basis, try to push it up to a week period of time. I would say if you have an instructor, it's good to bring that kind of thing, Nick, into your instructor and say, here's the songs I like. What do you think would be best for where I'm at? But a lot of times, I mean, you can make judgment calls based on the chords that you're playing and the strumming that you're using and your skill level at changing those chords. So what I would do is not just try to find one song that you like and go with that. Try to find a number of songs and then grade them yourself on where you're at and what you think would be the next step to learn. At the same time, try to integrate, when you pick a song, try to integrate exercises that'll prepare you for playing that song. Don't always just go song. It's a tough way to learn to play guitar. It looks like the fun, easy way to go, but believe me, it's much easier to learn some exercise that'll prepare you for playing the techniques instead of just trying to learn them within a song. That's all I can think of on that particular question. I know sometimes I have to pick a number of things to work on depending on where what I'm aiming towards, and make some decisions on what comes first, what comes second. And I think it's an ongoing decision-making process. There's not like a formula or a website to look to tell you what songs to play. I do think in general, I will say, Nick, it seems like students often, they try to go too fast because they're motivated by what they want to play as opposed to thinking what is the best thing to do right now. So keep that in mind and try to adjust for that. Any more questions? Question: how often do we change strings on a classical guitar? Rogelio: changing strings on classical guitar, depending on how often you play and the conditions you have your guitar in. Probably for many people, every 3 to 6 months. For me, probably every month or so. When I'm doing concerts, every week, because I want the best sound. When I'm recording, like every couple of sessions. And then I got to do it the night before because it has to stretch at least overnight to stay in tune. Because the recording's permanent and whatever tone I get on there is not going to change. In concert, it's not as critical. But for most students, I think nylon strings about every 6 months, maybe 3 months if you want a better sound. The reason I say depending on conditions, some people have more acid in their fingers. They tend to corrode the strings faster, especially the wound strings that have metal in them. It helps if you wipe the strings off each time, by the way. But some people have more and some have less, so the strings will corrode a little faster. And the conditions if you have it in a room that changes temperatures a lot, it's going to degrade the strings faster. Matter of fact, they'll bust more often. If you have it in a room that the temperature tends to stay the same, the strings do actually last longer. Wipe them down, keep them in a humidity control. Your guitar, it's better for your guitar as well. And your strings will last longer. That said, once you get good at changing nylon strings, it's not that hard. And they're not that expensive. The trick is getting over that hump of being a big ordeal the first, maybe half a dozen times. I want to say the first time or two, but I think that's underestimated. It took me probably a half a dozen times to get good at it. Here we go. I've always had a terrible time memorizing. I started to think that better off expanding my repertoire and forgetting about memorization. That really depends on what you're playing. Sharon K. I think I said it right. Sharon? Oh, Sharon K. Holmes. Got it. I will tell you this, and there's something I found for myself. When I didn't memorize songs, it was very hard for me to memorize songs. I would constantly rely on the music or the chord changes. Classical, I play classical also, and I would rely on the written notation, and for pop music, chord changes. But I found when I just forced myself to remember some songs, and when I say force, I would actually intend to work on memorizing. And that means actually take the music away if I was uncomfortable, try to play it. I'll record myself playing the song, stop and look at the sheet and try and record and play again. Force myself. The more I did, the easier it got. The mind is like a muscle. The more you use it, the better it gets. So what I would suggest, Sharon, is make some time as a practice, make time to practice memorizing songs. Even if it's memorizing just a chorus or a verse, break it down. Again, something smaller, not too hard, kind of like doing exercise. You don't want to leave the gym feeling totally worn out and sore muscle, and now you can't go to work, that kind of thing. Forget it. Do something that you can reasonably look forward to as a challenge, but not overwhelming. And keep that as a regular practice, memorizing. It will get easier, and you'll find yourself, you can expand it. You can memorize longer and more. I've heard, and I think for some people it's true, as I get older, they say it's harder to memorize, harder. That's not the case for me. I can memorize better than I can when I was younger. I think it's just from doing it, memorizing stuff. That said, I got the classical guitar song right now. I probably should start working on memorizing, but I want to keep working on note reading too. So it's a balance. And it depends on what you're working on. Tim says, I know I've hit on this before. Stage fright. Tim, are you saying you never have stage fright? Congratulations. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure he's asking what to do about stage fright. So it would help Tim if you could say a little bit more. Here he did. Friends came over the other day and I was practicing. I really froze up. Forgot everything I ever learned. Okay. Well, let me tell you this, Tim. If people came over and started watching me practicing, I would be uncomfortable too. I don't think I'd freeze up. But the thing is, I don't want people to watch me practice, and I want to prepare something and play it for them. So the first thing I would say, Tim, is if you're practicing, don't worry about that. I would say in general, don't consider that for public consumption. And if they happen to see it, just let it go. If you feel nervous for it, whatever. Say, I'm practicing, do it later, or, just don't worry about it. I think the best thing you can do about stage fright is do this. They have a name for it. Desensitize. There's a better word. Desensitization. I don't know the right word. Desensitize yourself by doing it in small steps. Play for yourself. Record yourself playing something. Then record yourself playing something and put it on YouTube. You don't have to let everybody watch. Maybe just keep it unlisted and share it in Real Guitar Success, because that's a audience you're not going to get criticized. That YouTube in general, you get some people on there just really unreasonable. But keep it unlisted, and that way other people won't find it. And just share the link on Real Guitar Success, and let other students. They're very supportive. Prepare something really easy and play it for your spouse or friend or whatever. Somebody that they're going to say it's good no matter what you do. And then prepare something more complicated and try that again. Keep doing that little by little. Find your next step. Some people, it works, play in the mirror. Pretend it's somebody else before you play it for somebody else. Recording really works for me. I find another level of when I record something, I really focus on getting it right. And nobody even has to watch. I'm going to watch, and I'm very critical of myself. Try that more often. Matter of fact, do it at least a couple times a week. Record yourself. Something small, easy, and then build up. Keep pushing it. Desensitize so that you take that next step, and it gets easier and easier until you can play a song for somebody you don't know and not, do something you've prepared, you've practiced, you've recorded it, and then see how you do there. I think you'll find you're in a whole another place if you take it step by step rather than just take an individual situation like you did here and make judgments around that. That leads to a lot of, mental chatter that you just don't need. Do you have any lessons on string bending? My fingers often get stuck or caught up on the strings above the bend. I do have some lessons on string bending, and Nick, if you're, I'll try and find some of those and put a link in the show notes. If you're playing acoustic guitar, it's a little different than electric guitar. You can bend more easily and do more elaborate bends on electric guitar. I'll do acoustic guitar stuff. Yeah, let me leave it at that rather than trying to do a whole lesson at this point on string bending. Practice outside. Yeah, that's a good one, Mark. That's a good idea. I second that. That's a good idea. Depending, outside in the middle of a busy crosswalk, that might be a higher level, but outside where only occasionally somebody might listen in, that could be a pretty low level step, so to speak. I like it. Mark says he practices on his front porch. I practice in the backyard, and my neighbors can overhear. That doesn't worry me at all, even if I'm making a mess. And I do sometimes because I'm doing something new that I can't do. That's practice. I'll play stuff I know, but that's mostly I'm not. I'm playing stuff I need to work on. Yeah, I like it. Any other suggestions, please? Mostly electric. Okay. String bends on electric are a little different. I don't have lessons specifically to electric, Nick. I tend to keep my lessons to acoustic guitar at this point. Of course, a lot of the same principles apply, but you can do a lot bigger, more elaborate stretches on the electric guitar. Okay, I think I caught all the questions for now. If you think of something else, oh, wait, I did see some. Question, keep my guitar in the case with a humidifier. Is that a good idea? Rogelio, yes, that's probably the best for the guitar. Here's what I don't like about that. When students often keep the guitar in the case, they practice less. I would say what's better is keep your guitar on the stand in a room you're going to practice, preferably in a room you can control, that the temperature is not going to change all over the place. It depends on where you live too, Rogelio. If you're in a very dry climate, Arizona or Nevada, Las Vegas kind of thing, I don't know where you're at, but yeah, then you'd want to have a room that you can control the humidity a little bit too. I do keep a humidity. They're really cheap. You can get them on Amazon, a thing that tells me the humidity in the room because I have expensive guitars. I would recommend that especially if you're using a nylon string, they're more sensitive. But any good guitar, you want to know that you're in the right humidity range overall. If you can't do any of that and it's a good guitar, probably should keep it in the case. But I would get a less expensive guitar and keep on the stand for practicing purposes as well. It's almost most people, I'd say 80% will practice less if you keep it in the case all the time. If you ask a guitar repairman, they'll say keep it in the case with a humidifier. But they're not your teacher. Let me make sure I didn't miss any other questions. There was one question here. Let me see. I think I did miss. No, I did catch that question. Good. So I'm going to do the drawing. Feel free to ask questions while I'm doing the drawing, and I'll take another peek at the end and see that. Oh, by the way, Rogelio says he's in El Paso, Texas. It is hot and dry. Yeah, you got to take that into account, especially if you have a good guitar. They're more sensitive, the more expensive guitars. Yeah, you're going to have to either keep the room at a certain humidity or keep it in the case and keep it a humidifier in there, especially for long periods of time. Maybe you can, when you know you're going to practice a certain time of day, pull it out and put it on the stand each morning or something, if that works. Or if you don't practice till nighttime, in the late afternoon or something, pull it out. So it's kind of, I'll do, if I need to go somewhere and I'm afraid I'm going to forget something, I'll put it by the door. Well, that's the same idea, I'm thinking. Put your guitar out to remind you. The bottom line is do what you need to do to practice every day. That's important. If your guitar is holding you back, get a different guitar or figure out something so you can do it. That's my recommendation. Let's do a drawing. Okay, and for those of you who didn't hear me in the beginning, this is a drawing for Real Guitar Success members who have completed the 20 practice sessions for the month of May. And I'm going to give away a $50 Amazon gift card to members. And this is something I do every month. The real winner is everyone, because you've played 20 practice sessions, just 10 minutes a day, and then made decisions if you want to save whichever ones you want to work on more later. So let's see who the winner is for this month. Nicholas Monkman. Hey, Nick, and you're on the show today. Congratulations, Nick. Good work. And good work to everybody who completed the practice session for the month of May. I'll be sending you your Amazon gift card today, Nick. And I'm going to check any last minute questions. I don't see anything. Good session, Grant. Thank you, Grant. Appreciate that. It's a pleasure having you all here. Thank you for taking this time to be with me and with the other guitar people here. If you're new here, please feel free to add comments. If you're watching this on the recording, that's what I'm trying to say. I am going to put the recording on YouTube. If you're watching this as a recording, go ahead and add some questions to the comments below. I will check from time to time and answer your questions as well. In any case, I will be back next month, the first Thursday of the month. I look forward to seeing you here again. Feel free to submit your questions ahead of time. I would love to have a chance to read them and maybe even do a little research if I could add to the experience. Bye for now, everybody. Take care.